So posture during the approach, this time specifically about two-handed players. Posture tends to be one of the key components of timing. But in the two-handed approach, it's a whole nother environment, right? We've got different varieties, different options when it comes to what we see and what we're looking to try and train people to do. Give me some examples of what you see, maybe even in the setup for posture for two-handed players today.
Well, it's a big smorgasbord out there with so many different varieties of styles nowadays. You know, you have the more traditionalist in the two-handed, trying to incorporate some of the classic style of bowling into their game, where they start more upright, and then slowly as they move through their approach, they're driving their upper core down into the shot, allowing that swing to then come through, and then obviously hitting their target lines. And then you have the other ones that actually, they'll start preset, you know, down, and just drive that, and then they'll get almost to 90 degrees with their core and their spine.
A lot of presets, a lot of variety, and athletes learning to develop their own personal style of that game today. What about the head position relative to that as well? We want to talk a little bit about what should the head position start maybe and look like, or look like throughout the approach.
Well, you want your head position, you know, kind of getting in over your non-bowling side shoulder. That's critical because you've got that swing shape coming back, and we want to align the head over here, and then having that take back or that two-handed, you know, method, staying as close to your body as possible and then keeping it in line. Very traditional to the classic style, keeping that swing behind your head.
So we see a similarity in one and two-handers in that they're both stable, they're both going to be some version of consistent from shot to shot, but we see a variety of how they get into those positions from their setup. Now, if we move a little bit further into perhaps the finish position, or maybe from the pivot or power step into the finish position, what do we see with two-handers there?
Well, because of the variety in the styles nowadays, you're going to see some of the traditionalists actually try to maintain a nice steady movement, so it's just the swing moving and the head is steady as they come through it. In a traditional bowler, that would be a no-no, but in two-handed, that's every bit of the game.
That's the technique, yeah, that's the
technique,
style.
Yeah.
The core plays a lot of role in the overall posture change, and then obviously at the release point, whether they're pulling up through the shot or whether they're maintaining a level of stability. Some of the high-performance players that we see either through the national team occasionally when they come in and train, or perhaps on the professional tour, you're seeing some variety there too, right?
Absolutely. At first, early on in the infancy of the two-handed game, we thought it was kind of cookie cutter and it was pretty traditional. But now, with the advent of the two-handed explosion throughout the world, there are so many adverse styles. I mean, there's no book really to write. It's still being written.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety when it comes to the two-handed technique, but there's still some basic foundations that we really stick to, the stability of the head, the core positioning. There's some places that now we're rotating around because that overall arm swing shape and that tempo are different than the traditional one-handers. Two-handers still get it done very effectively, a lot more power, typically more revolutions when it comes to the release point. And so their ball's got a lot more impact when it comes to actually contacting those pins, and they get the messages that most of us traditional one-handers don't.
Absolutely. It's all about the big wheel, big power.